Hi everyone, and welcome to AdEspresso's July webinar. I'm Paul, and today we're going to be covering probably my favorite topic for marketing, which is retargeting strategies for Facebook and for Google. So if you're just joining us, you should see a little questions box if you just want to put in there where you're joining us from, if you can hear our audio okay. You can always see we've got Betty from Florida, we've got Mandy from New Brunswick in Canada, you got Michael there coming from Exton. Hey, got Riaz, my friend Riaz, which I last met in London, Brisbane. Yeah, we've got loads. California, San Diego, Bulgaria. Got an international crowd, so we've got a very big crowd today. So thanks for joining us. Just before we get going, most common question we get asked is there a recording? And yes, there is. We'll send that out to you within 24 hours. So keep an eye on your inboxes, also your spam boxes. Sometimes they end up there. Some of the strategy we'll be covering, you might want to go and recap. So I think you might find that recording quite useful there. As I just mentioned, there's that questions box there, and you'll go to webinar panel. This is going to be a very interactive session. We'll try and take some questions as we go along. My colleague Tori is going to be monitoring the questions box. We'll also have time for Q&A at the end there. Just one thing with the questions, we are covering Facebook and Google today. So if you can kind of just mention whether it's a Facebook question or Google or both, that just gives us an indication on who we should get to answer the questions. So we're splitting this into two parts. The first part is going to be on Facebook and Instagram retargeting, which is going to be covered by myself. And then my good friend Bruno, who's an ad specialist for Google at AdEspresso, he's going to be going over some of his favorite Google retargeting strategies later in the webinar. A little bit about myself. I'm Paul. I'm the head of education here at AdEspresso. If you've got any questions after the webinar, you can just reach out to me by email. You can email paul@adespresso.com. Or you can always tweet us at AdEspresso, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So what's my background for being able to give you these strategy tips today? I'm in a lucky position at AdEspresso. We do lots of campaign reviews. I've personally audited over 1,000 ad accounts. Very rare outside of AdEspresso for anybody to see so many campaigns from so many advertisers from so many countries there. So we've really got our finger on the pulse of what's working and what isn't. I personally manage about 1 to 2 million of ad spend a year for clients. And I coach clients of all sizes. I love coaching small business clients, but also have some enterprise level ones with 1 billion, even 10 billion turnover there. So hopefully what I'm going to give you today is strategy based on actual practice, like what's working now, rather than just some theory that I made up in a blog post. Okay, so let's get down to details here. What we're going to be doing for the next 35 minutes or so is covering Facebook ad retargeting strategies. But before we dive into that strategy, you need to know why we're going to be doing retargeting, because if you get in the mind of that user, then that's going to help your retargeting strategy. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons why we do retargeting. The first reason, Facebook mentioned this on their quarterly financial calls, is that 93% of Facebook ads are now served on mobile. So this is the typical user experience. They're in the coffee shop, they see your ad, they like the offer, they click through. They haven't got time to submit a complex application if it's like lead gen that you're doing. They certainly haven't got time to purchase. They mean to come back to your website, but then they've got to catch the bus to work. They've got to go and grab a sandwich or whatever, and they just forget, or they can't find your website again. So just giving them that nudge and going, hey, you know about me, make sure you come back. Here's a little offer for you. Works incredibly well. Gone are the days when somebody's going to like be on desktop where they're going to just slowly read each post in depth. They've just got more emails, messages than they can handle these days. So retargeting, very, very important. Second reason is to think about the customer journey. Now, this is for e-commerce, but you might have something similar for lead gen, especially if you're like, say, promoting a quiz, then promoting a webinar as the second stage there. So classic e-commerce funnel is people see your ad, they then click on it, they then go through to a product page. This fires the view content pixel on Facebook's side. They then add products to cart. That fires the add to cart pixel, not surprisingly. They can then initiate checkout, again, fires the initiate checkout, and finally, they fire that purchase pixel there. So I've got some real numbers here. This is from a campaign that I ran, and from nearly 100,000 impressions, we ended up with 53 purchases. Look at the drop off each way. There's 5,000 people plus that clicked. So, only 1% of clicks resulted in a purchase. Yeah, these people are obviously interested, they click through. Add to carts there, only 10% of people that added to cart purchased the first time. But they're obviously going to be very, very interested in the product. Even there, only 1 in 3 people that initiated checkout, well, they actually went through to the checkout and just had to enter their credit card details and they were done. 2/3 of those bailed. So there's lots of chance there to pick up more people. So if we're not retargeting, we're just leaving money on the table there. This is, we've warmed up that audience, we've got that brand awareness. We just need to push them over the line there. Third and final reason why you should be retargeting. I was analyzing some of my campaigns today and I pulled up this one from a 15-day add to cart audience. You can see we spent $14,500 and we took $169,000. Now, I'm not going to promise all your retargeting campaigns are going to be like 10xing, 12xing. This is an extreme example, really, just to show you for the webinar. But basically, they're always going to produce good ROI. Yeah, they might take a little bit of testing, but you should see very, very good results from them. So, it's madness if we spend all this money on prospecting and this small amount of money for retargeting, if we don't do that there. So I hope that's convinced you that we need to be running retargeting. And so strategies I'm going to be covering in our time together today, I'm going to give you 7 key strategies. I'm going to talk about evergreen retargeting first, and I'll explain in a second what that is. Then seasonal retargeting, how to use email custom audiences, just some little tips on kind of what offer to use. And then we'll just wrap everything up with some technical discussions on optimization, budget bidding, placements, all that kind of geeky stuff there. So what is evergreen retargeting? It's something that's talked a lot about, but not many people seem to get to grips with what it is. And I think sometimes there's some blog posts that have been written on evergreen retargeting that make it sound super complex, like you have to be a really advanced Facebook marketer to do this. Truth be told, you can set up with a new account evergreen retargeting within 5 minutes and just a few clicks. Super simple to do. So what does evergreen retargeting mean? Evergreen campaign is one that uses an audience that dynamically updates. That's the key thing, those 2 words there, dynamically updates over time. What that means is it eliminates the problem that you get with a static audience, that if you just used a fixed audience, then you hammer them with ads and they just get bored with the ads over time. You get that ad fatigue or ad saturation, whereas we don't get that if the audience is constantly updating. That's great for marketers because it means they can run these campaigns for months. I've even done it for AdEspresso for years. So it's kind of set and forget once you've done some testing on these. And evergreen retargeting generally has the highest ROI of your campaigns. Not always, but I'd say most cases that I see. So this is very simple to set up. You can run them forever. You get high ROI. So many advantages to that. Got this kind of cheesy clip art graphic here, but basically what it means is your audience is like on a conveyor belt, is that they join here on day 1, and say that we put like a 7-day time window on an audience, which will explain how to set up in a second. Then we show them ads and say, hey, come back, here's an offer for 7 days. Then they either convert or they just drop off the funnel at the other end there. And that's the real key to evergreen. All that means is that we keep the audience fresh so the campaign keeps fresh. So what kind of audiences can we use there? If we dig into Facebook Business Manager and you click on the audiences section, you can then click on, there's a little blue button that says create audience. It's really obvious to see there. And you come up with a screen like this. So you end up with different audiences, some based on like website activity, email activity, and then also lots of engagement audiences on Facebook, like video views, people that have engaged with your Instagram profile and Facebook page. And the key thing here is that we're looking for that time window. When you click on one of those audiences to create it, you need to put that time window on there. And we'll cover different time periods in a second there, but that's all that evergreen is that, 7 days here, so this just captures anybody that's visited your website in the last 7 days. Examples of dynamic audiences, it's most of the ones you can create, but it's certainly like website visitors, app engagers, page engagers, Instagram engagers, video views. The main one that doesn't update dynamically is email audiences, but later on I'm going to show you a little trick. We can't then use them in an evergreen campaign, but we can certainly automatically update the audiences for email lists and make your life 10 times easier there. So once we create this audience, so this is just a couple of clicks to create an audience like this, how can we use it? Very, very simple. In Ads Manager, we just choose that audience. So in this case, a 7-day audience of initiate checkouts. And again, I'll show you how to create that in a second. and then you just exclude your purchasers there. And away you go. Very, very simple. So create the audiences in a few clicks, in a few seconds. You plug that into whatever campaign. We'll cover some offers later, but usually give them an offer and you can run that and you can just keep running that forever. So simple. Using AdEspresso, same principle, that you've got your include audiences and your exclude audiences, and we'll certainly be focusing a bit more on these as we go through the webinar. So that's it. Within 5 minutes, you've set up your first evergreen audience. I hope that's kind of demystified it for you there. But of course, what we want to do now is dig in a little bit deeper there on how to strategically use these evergreen audiences. So let me give you an idea about how we could segment or separate some audiences. This is a classic example, something that I would probably use for most of my e-commerce clients. You might kind of tweak the timings a little bit. You're going to adapt it for your own business. But for example, we could have one campaign where just general 7-day website visitors, they're okay. They're better than just like cold traffic, but this can be quite a high bounce rate. So I just give them general, quite a wide pool of people. Might just give them a free shipping offer. Maybe my add to carts, they've showed a lot more intent. I can then give them, a better coupon. And then my really valuable audience, this initiate checkout, it's essential I push them over the line. So I'm going to give them a better offer there. And take-home message is that when people are further down the funnel, they'll tolerate being remarketed to for longer. So that's why I've used different time windows here. So the question then is, of course, how do we set up those audiences? And here's an example. I'm going to run you through exactly how we can set up this funnel so you can then take this away and implement this strategy yourself. You get this little drop-down box when you create an audience of website visitors within Business Manager. And so you can just choose all website visitors. I think that might be the default one, and put like 7 days on here. Now, remember, these audiences are going to dynamically update. So you create them once and you've got them accessible forever. So really simple to do. They're completely free. So just create loads of different time windows, have all these tools available in your toolbox. The key thing there is to have a good naming convention, because if you call this like, Paul's fantastic website visitor audience, then you're just going to forget what the kind of like, what the segmentation is and how many days it is. Have a really clear, logical naming structure. So in 6 months' time, you still know what they mean. And then again, add to cart, we just choose that from the drop-down box, put your time window. Same with initiate checkout, put your time window there. And of course, we would do the same with purchase. And then like we saw with the first campaign, really simple. You've got your includes and your excludes. So I'll show you what we do there. For Sunday website visitors, we include those, and then we exclude people lower down the funnel there. Your second campaign of add to carts, we then just exclude people again further down the funnel. And then campaign 3, we do our include of initiate checkouts. Again, what we're going to do there is we're going to exclude our purchasers. And then this is kind of how it's laid out. This is why I said you might just want to look at the replay later, which we're going to email to you, and then you can just take a note of these. What I recommend that you do is if you try and hold this in your head, it's impossible. Just use a piece of pen and paper, or you can use funnel software for free like Funnelytics, or I use Lucidchart, which is like free flowchart software. However you want to, just map it out and visualize it. And just very simple, look at your includes, exclude the next stage in your funnel, and you'll be fine there. So that was how we could sequence by like different stages of the funnel, but sometimes you can't do that, or maybe you want to use a different technique. For example, sometimes if we're not doing e-commerce, we don't have that view content, that initiate checkout, that add to cart there. So what we can do instead is sequence by time windows there. That can be very, very effective as well. So I'm going to give you a little case study on this. This is a subscription box client in the US. And so what their aim is to obviously get people to purchase a box subscription. And so what they do in the first 4 days once somebody visits the website is they're trying to get a 3-month subscription. So quite a big ask, and they'll give them a big reward of a $20 coupon. If people don't buy in the first 4 days, they will lower the ask. So they'll just say, hey, just subscribe on a 1-month recurring basis, and we'll give you $10 off there. So lower ask, but lower reward. If after day 8 they still don't purchase, then instead of going for a subscription, we can go for a one-off shop sale. That's still profit. There's still going to be a customer there. And then after 12 days, if they still don't purchase, we're not going to give that up on them yet. What we're then going to do is get them to buy a $10 item. Digital marketer website, we call this a tripwire sale. Basically just converting them from a prospect to a customer. That's a psychological difference, and then we can go and remarket to them and get that customer lifetime value up from there. So how do we do this? First campaign, we'd have that 4-day website visitor audience and exclude purchasers. Always exclude your purchasers. This is why like the average user that you see hates remarketing, is because they purchase a product and then they keep getting hammered with ads for it because lazy marketers haven't excluded their recent purchases there. So that's why we always think about our purchasers, so we don't have that overlap and we don't annoy people that have taken the step that we've asked them there. Second campaign, people always ask, how do I create like a 5 to 8 day website visitor audience? Well, you don't. What you do is you use your includes and your excludes. So we have that 8-day audience, and then you exclude the 4-day audience, and of course, purchases. And you can guess on campaign 3, we have our 12-day audience included, and we exclude our 8-day, and you know what's coming for the next one. We have our 16-day audience, and we exclude our 12-day audience. You know, you create that 4 audiences, just an include and exclude, super simple to create. Again, here's the kind of blueprint that you need. You can watch the replay on this and you can like screenshot or just go map out your own funnel. You know, the actual day ranges might depend on your website traffic there. You know, I don't say that you need to follow this as the exact template. Test and find out what works for you, but you can see how we can create those time segments very, very simply with your includes and excludes there. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip here. This is where sometimes marketers go wrong, is that most of your conversions happen in the first 4 days. So you actually have the biggest ask and the biggest offer at first, not later on in your sequence. A lot of people try and put the biggest offer later on in the sequence, but you know, by that time, your conversion rate is going to drop there. So just hit them with the best ask and the best offer first, and you should get some good response there. So I hope that gives you some ideas about sequencing. So just go and play. All those audiences are completely free to go and create there in Ads Manager, and they will sync straight up with AdEspresso there. So you can just use those and just map those out on a piece of paper. So let's move on. I'm just going to have one slide here on creative. We could have a whole webinar on this, and actually in November, we are going to have a whole webinar on creative. But really for retargeting, we've got to be thinking about that user experience and where they are in the sales funnel. So your top of the funnel ads, these are your kind of fluffy brand awareness. We have a nice 60-second lifestyle video, talk about the brand values and the features and benefits of the product and all that kind of stuff. People already know us now if they've gone through to our website or they're on our email list or whatever. So generally, the ads are a lot more blunt. Like you'll see in this case, this is an ad that we use to retarget 5-day website visitors once they've read a blog post. They already know about AdEspresso. They've probably got an idea what we do. So we can go, hey, take a free trial. Keep it very simple there. So short and sweet, focused on the offer. As the video or image, I don't have a strong preference, but I generally use image. I don't really want any distractions. Again, I don't need my 60-second lifestyle video usually. I've already done that brand awareness. So I just want, here's the offer. Very, very blunt, very, very simple ads to create there. But test, you know, different things work for different businesses there. But just, yeah, don't need to get too clever with the ads for retargeting. So, of course, once you've done your evergreen retargeting there, is people drop off that funnel. Like maybe we're retargeting them for 14 days. Well, they drop off there. There's still going to be a warm audience. We don't really want to give up on these people, but we can't just keep showing them ads forever, because that's just going to get wasteful and people are going to get really fed up with us and give us negative feedback there. So what do we do with those seasonal audiences? Well, we could just show them a random offer, but I think it's much better to make those offers, you know, themed. So we've got Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Easter. In US, you've got Labor Day, you've got loads of holidays, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas, so on. There's no end of things we can be using there. Generally, I'd use there maybe 1, maybe 2 promotions a month, and just for like a weekend at a time. Basically, keep an eye on that frequency rate, keep an eye on your results. As soon as your results start declining, you know, rest that audience and then come back with your next seasonal offer there. And of course, exclude people that are already going through Evergreen funnel. We don't want to go and mess up our Evergreen sequences by having our themed offer there. Again, what kind of ad creative do we use? Here's an example from Walmart. This is an ad I wouldn't use for my seasonal campaigns. I don't be doing my genuine brand awareness. Hey, have you got a cat? We got some really nice cat toys here. Because this is a warm audience, we've already got that brand awareness here. So generally my seasonal offers, like Walmart do here, a lot more blunt. Black Friday, okay, I'm showing a carousel. I've got 10 products in my carousel. What do you want? Do you want this discounted computer? Do you want this item, which is $5? Do you want this screen? Whatever it is there, that's what you want. Really, really simple for retargeting. Again, no need to get particularly too clever with these ads here. If you want to know what the major holidays are, then a little tip for you, go on to business.twitter.com and you can download their Twitter marketing calendar. The reason I like this marketing calendar is one, it's completely free, and two, it's based on tweet volume. So rather than like, these kind of made up holidays or things that people might not actually be celebrating, this is looking at the actual volume there. So very effective guide there. It is kind of US focused. I think they customize it for a couple of other countries like the UK as well, but give you an idea of getting your finger on the pulse there. Once you know what your seasonal holidays are, I'd recommend putting it into a content calendar. When I used to be a social media manager, I used to always map out a content calendar a year ahead. First thing I did on the first day back at work in January. So first of all, map in your key dates, your Thanksgiving, Christmas, Valentine's, whatever. Then schedule in your key product launches or anything that's going to be really exciting where you need to go and promote those. And then those gaps that you've got there, you can then put in some third-party tie-ins, like if you're doing any competitions or brand collaborations. And then if you've got some other gaps, that's when you can be looking at your national days and international days. Like yesterday, it was kind of World Emoji Days and lots of brands were using lots of emojis and things like that. But yeah, if you need extra things, there's going to be no shortage of these national days. I don't use them that much, but it's really the three key things that I'm using first there. Plenty of templates you can download on the web or just make up your own there. And then moving on from there, something we haven't discussed yet is how to use these email custom audiences. So these are really, really valuable audiences that we've got, and I'm going to show you how to use those effectively. The advantage with your email custom audience is that they last forever. For example, the people that are going to buy from you this Christmas are most likely to be the people that bought from you last Christmas. And that's essential to know because your 180-day website audience is the maximum that you can create for like website visitors. So, we can only go and look back 6 months from website visitors, whereas we can look back forever over several years for email lists. There is a disadvantage to using them though. Your email list, when you match it on Facebook, it's only got about a 60 to 70% match rate for B2B, for B2C rather. Simply not everybody uses the same email address day to day as they use on Facebook there. It's going to be lower from B2B. Like my AdEspresso email address, I wouldn't use that for my personal Facebook account. So, there's pros and cons, and that's why we would use for retargeting both email audiences and website custom audiences. But certainly for that seasonal retargeting, then email lists are going to be highly effective there. So how do we use these? As we saw earlier, when you go to create a custom audience within Ads Manager, you've got that customer file and just click through and follow the steps. In AdEspresso, similar process, you go to the Tools menu and go to Asset Manager, and you can then decide what folders to put all your assets in. And we just click on Create Audience there. Follow it through, we just decide, okay, I want to upload a data file, choose your CSV file, and away you go. Very, very simple to do this in either Ads Manager or within AdEspresso. But to be honest with you, the problem that we have with email addresses there is that every time that we get more email addresses, we have to export our list from MailChimp or HubSpot or whatever, and then import that into Ads Manager or AdEspresso. And to be honest, everybody forgets to do that. We're all busy, life's too short. And software is there to automate these things for us. So that's why within AdEspresso, we created the data sync tool. This is free as part of your AdEspresso account there. So what DataSync does is it creates a bridge between Facebook and the 10 most popular CRMs. Now you can do it both ways. You can go from Facebook if you're running lead ads and like Facebook will dump those leads into a CSV file, whereas this way you can just sync them up to HubSpot or Infusionsoft or whatever, or you can go from your CRM and sync those leads to a Facebook custom audience. So as we can see, we can go both ways there. So basically click through, go through the 5 steps. It's so easy. Just choose what fields to map and away you go. Create that audience and it's set it and forget it there. So you can kind of see now that, my plan is always to automate as much as possible. I can use Evergreen Retargeting for my website and engagement audiences, and I set those up, run them forever. And then I could be retargeting with my email custom audiences, and that's running on data sync, so I don't have to keep messing about with audiences there. And then, yeah, I can spend my time doing more fun tasks in marketing there. So generally, another little tip for you as well is that if you're using lookalike audiences, if you're using a dynamic like website audience, then those lookalikes will update dynamically. Same as well, if we use data sync to dynamically update our email list, then the lookalike will update. Now, lookalikes are cold traffic audiences, not for retargeting, but it's a nice touch that you can keep your cold audiences fresh as well there. So let's give you some idea on how to set up those campaigns. Let's have a little peek at what kind of offers that we use, because I think it's really good if we're retargeting to give people an offer there. There's basically 4 main types, which I'm going to cover briefly, but free accessories, free shipping, money off, or just a standard percentage discount. You've probably seen all of these yourself as a user. And what I recommend is that you can split test these and find out what your customers respond to. For example, in AdEspresso, if you're creating your headline or ad text, anyway, you've got that plus button, you can then just go and just split test those different offers. Like we've got here a like save $10, save 10%, get a free t-shirt there. You can go and clone different ads in within Ads Manager. Slightly more work, but it's certainly possible. To give you an example, something that's overlooked that not many brands use them, but all my clients do because I push them to, and they get the best ROI is free product offers. You'll see this sometimes, like, if you buy sunglasses, you can get a free case. If you buy a necklace, you get a free chain. I think the classic one is like if you buy like protein and sports supplements, you get a free protein shaker and so on. And it's a win-win. So what happens is, like with the protein case, is the brand buys a pallet of like 1,000 protein shakers that might cost them $1 each, and then they go and mark those up for $10. So the customer gets a really good value, and the retailer doesn't have to pay too much. And it's just better for the brand than carving up prices. As soon as you carve up prices, it cheapens the perception of the brand a bit there. One of my clients that did really well did it with t-shirts, buys the t-shirts for $2.50, marks them up for $25. Customers love the t-shirts. It doesn't cost the brand much. Everybody wins. So if you don't use free products for your offers, definitely have a look at what you can do there that's not costing you too much. Can do free shipping. The idea with free shipping is to push people to spend more. So you would give free shipping over X number of dollars or your local currency. So you make people spend a bit more, increase that average order value. In terms of percentage versus money off, I've been looking through different blog posts, different marketing strategy, and people are divided. And personally, I think it really depends on the amount that somebody is spending. So psychologically, if it's a $25 product, 20% off sounds better than $5 off. That's like a bigger number. But if somebody's spending like $200, then I think that psychologically $20 sounds more than say 10% off there. So I think it really depends, again, test, but I think there's not one right answer here. It really depends on your product value. So in kind of last 5 minutes of this section, we're just going to look through those technical aspects of things like optimization, budget bidding, and placements there. So the question is, what optimization should we be using? We'll be covering this more in next month's webinar, which I'll mention at the end of this webinar. But for really small, well-defined audience, and like I've underlined here, well-defined, maybe like add to carts or initiate checkouts, might optimize for reach because we just want to maximize the number of people that we can reach within that audience because they're already so valuable. If we've got a larger audience, like a mid-sized one, maybe this is general website visitors in the last few days, then we might go and link clicks. So we're still trying to get, quite good distribution, but we're going to leave out some people that might not be quite so valuable. And then optimize conversions. This is if you've got your kind of lukewarm audience, this could be your 180-day website visitors or like 180-day website page engagers or something like that. Still valuable, but we don't need to reach all of them. We might optimize for conversions. Also, there's a trade-off. Like, is it more important to maximize the number of sales or maximize your ROI? That's going to be a different figure for every brand there. So there's no right or wrong answer. If you need loads of sales, you might optimize for clicks or reach. If you want just to maintain a higher ROI, maybe optimize for conversions. Then bidding. I'm not going to cover this too much, like we could spend a whole webinar on this, but generally start with lowest cost bidding. It just works well. It's a no-brainer. But if you're getting a good ROI and you're just finding that you've got a small, very good audience and you're just not reaching everybody, then try lowest cost bid with a very, very high bid cap. I think Andrew Foxwell calls this like a CPA override, where you're basically saying to Facebook, right, I dare you to spend more money. You're giving it a very, very high bid there. It's kind of the opposite way to how you'd normally use a bid cap there. That certainly works for some of my initiate checkout audiences. In terms of frequency, people sometimes worry that if they can like show people ads like 100 times a day, and luckily Facebook has got our back there. They've got some built-in frequency caps. Within the newsfeed, people can only see an ad from you once every 2 hours. In Instagram, it's every 3 hours, and Instagram stories once every 6 hours. And Facebook have this little quite interesting kind of disclaimer here that, in general, it's easier to reach somebody the first time than progressively reaching them again and again and again. So it means that we do have to keep an eye on our frequency rate, but it's not going to run away and get crazy high on a daily basis, especially as, apart from us advertisers, people generally spend about 30 minutes a day on Facebook. So they might just see your ad once or twice a day there. Also, what you can sometimes do, and this is just if you are getting a very good ROI and again reaches that limiting factor, you can put in a high budget, and Facebook again with that frequency cap per user, it won't spend all of it. Like in this example, the daily budget is set at $300, and sometimes you're spending $50, maximum $60 there. In terms of the budgets that we're using, this is quite a big discussion, but when allocating budget, I generally set the budget for retargeting first. I'll give it as much as it needs because that's going to give me the best ROI. It's going to be harder to get sales from my cold traffic prospecting. Also, retargeting, remember, that picks up traffic from all sources. So it could be from Google, could be from Facebook, organic, Facebook ads, Instagram. Maybe somebody heard about you on a podcast and then went through to your website. However they reach your website, we can retarget them with Facebook ads. So very effective. So generally, if I'm given X number of dollars, I'm going to see what my retargeting needs first, depending on the audience sizes. And then I'm going to have what's left over for cold traffic. As an approximation, generally 80% cold traffic, 20% there for retargeting, but that can vary. And in extreme cases for some small brands, I see them just running all their ads for retargeting. One of my clients, they do very, very well with organic traffic. They do a couple of Facebook Lives, quite long ones, every week, and so they drive all this organic traffic, like loads of video viewers, lots of website visitors. And so we don't need to spend that money on cold traffic prospecting with ads. Instead, what we can then do is just spend it all on retargeting there. In terms of placement, probably be using, well, not necessarily, but certainly consider using automatic placements. Like in Ads Manager, there's an option for that, or you can just choose all of them in AdEspresso there. The reason why is if with that small audience is the limiting factor, like, how many people can we reach, then giving extra placements give us extra chance to get ads served in front of them there. Also for small audiences, be mindful, don't do loads and loads of split testing, and certainly don't have lots of ad sets where you've got that internal competition. Split testing for cold traffic is good. For retargeting, we want to keep it down a bit there. Also, think about your ad creative. I usually like to have half a dozen ads. Is that I don't want to go kind of flip side is I don't want to be like, kind of optimized too heavily, is that the frequency rate is going to be higher. So I want like a few different ad variations so that people can see them there. And then also, last thing there is that frequency rate is going to be higher. And that's okay. Don't worry about that. It's very different to cold traffic there, but just make sure that we're using the right time windows there. So I hope you found that tips useful, and we're going to be getting to some Q&A later, but what I'm going to do now is hand over to my colleague Bruno, who's going to be covering some Google tips for you. So I'm just going to hand over to Bruno now. Bruno, can you hear us?
Hello, yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Amazing. Can you see my screen as well?
Can we see your screen, Tori?
Yes, I can see it.
Excellent. Yeah, we're all good to go, Bruno.
Great. So today we're going to talk about advanced remarketing strategies. But first, let me tell you a couple of things about myself. My name is Bruno Morris. I love traveling. In fact, this is a picture of me in Thailand. I was born and raised in Italy, and I've always been interested in marketing, starting my first marketing job at 17. In 2012, I moved to the UK to complete my master's degree in digital marketing, and I've been working for different agencies based in London. I've gained a multitude of experience by working together with the top experts in Google Ads on big brands like Trustpilot, Holiday Taxis, Lava Art, and 90 Extra clients. After 6 years working with some of the top agencies based in London, I decided to go freelancing. And due to the fast increasing number of clients, I decided to start my own agency called Remarketing, where we create marketing funnels, integrated different digital channels, mainly Google Ads and Facebook Ads, in order to maximize the ROI and create a predictable way to get more clients and leads. But now let's focus about advanced remarketing strategies. And today we're going to talk about what is remarketing, audience and segments, the foundation of your marketing strategy, understanding your visitors, funnel-based segmentation, the message, and how to set up a basic remarketing campaign. First of all, let's define remarketing. Remarketing is a way to connect with people who previously interacted with your website or mobile app. It allows you to strategically position your ad in front of these audiences as they browse on Google or its partner websites, through helping you increase your brand awareness or remind those audience to make a purchase. In fact, our users will go through this typical journey by visiting your website, getting tracked by your cookies, and when they leave the website, your ad will be shown in other websites. This concept, also known as retargeting, can dramatically increase your conversion rates and return of investment. This is because past site visitors who are already familiar with your brand are much more likely to become a customer or complete other valuable action on your site. A study conducted by Nielsen showed that the majority of consumers need an average of 6 visits before making a purchase, which is why any kind of remarketing activity is so important. People who buy the product on the first visit are often those who buy impulsively or buy cheap products. It's very unlikely for B2B and high-end products to sell on the first visit. This is why it's very important to have remarketing in your marketing mix. It's a crucial element to make your marketing campaigns more successful and more profitable, which will also lead to what most business owners really want, a predictable way to get more clients and leads. So let's go into more details. Remarketing is all about reaching the right website visitor at the right time, in the right place, and with the right message. Your audience is going to be a segment or slices of your website visitors population that is pulled from the overall list of your website. Data collection tools like Google Analytics or Adobe Analytics and many others allow us to collect the data of the population, in which we will be able to create specific segments. We can get a very rich profile of the intrinsic characteristic of a customer. And we're also developing a very detailed profile that includes information like the browser, the location, the device, the time of the day, and the day of the week. For instance, a good segment for travel agency could be creating an audience of users who search flights from New York to San Francisco in the last 30 days, for example. And if the users doesn't book the flight, we can use a retargeting strategy to show our ad on search or Google Display Network, display our ads in different format and in different devices. We're going to talk about Google Display Network in the next slide. Anyway, creating those segments when you plan how to create your marketing campaigns is the most important thing that you can possibly do. If you don't get your segments right, meaning you don't have a good understanding of your website visitors, then anything else you do all the money you spend on remarketing is not going to be as efficient and as well spent as it would have been if you got your audience segment right. Let's have a quick refreshment on Google Display Network. I'm going to skip the search campaign since this is an advanced webinar. So Google Display Network include YouTube, Gmail, and many more, with thousands of internet users visiting this website daily. And Google Display Network allows you to place your advertisement on this website for maximum exposure of your business. GDN can come in different formats like text ads on website, image ads on website, video ads, or can be ads on mobile app as well. There are different ways of remarketing. Remarketing ads consist in static images, animated images, video, responsive ads, and text ads that are placed on the Google Display or Google Search Network. Specifically, we have standard remarketing, where you can show your ads to your past visitors as they browse sites on app on the display network. Then we've got the dynamic remarketing, which takes remarketing to the next level with ads that include products or services that people viewed on your website or app. Then we got the remarketing list, where you can show ads to past visitors as they do follow-up searches for what they need on Google after leaving your website. And we got video remarketing, which works really well in terms of engagement, where you can show ads to people who have interacted with your videos or YouTube channel as they use YouTube and browse display network videos, website, and apps. And last but not least, we got the customer list remarketing, where you can upload list of contact information that your customer have given you. When those people are signed into Google, you can show them ads across different Google products like Gmail, for example. So let's see how we can use those remarketing ads. Being able to create a proper audience segment really just comes down to understanding your visitors. So I want to talk to you about the user action segmentation, which is a really powerful technique. It's probably the best technique to use. In fact, it's the most successful technique that we use in our client's account. So let's focus on this now. Different businesses will get a different interpretation of specific page view, time spent on the site, or demographic like age or gender. But one thing all businesses have in common is the funnel. For some businesses, the funnel might take 2 steps, like Amazon. You just click and buy in just 2 steps. While for other businesses, like B2B companies, for example, the funnel may have many different steps and can take up to a year. But every human being will go through the core fundamental phases of the buyer funnel. So at the top of the funnel, we got the awareness. Then below that, we got interest, which can be translated when someone show a click or a comment on your post. Then we got the consideration, when someone actually view the product page. Then we got the intent, when someone actually add this product to the cart. Then we got the evaluation, probably when someone leads to the payment page. And we got the purchase at the end. This is the core. This can happen in 1 minute or in 1 year, but it doesn't matter. As marketers, what matters is to figure out which action and characteristics tell you what stage of the funnel the buyer is likely to be in. Sometimes this could be unpredictable, but very often it is possible to find the combination of behavior which enable you to place the users in the right place of the funnel. We can actually take a next step and go even deeper by segmenting these different phases of the funnel. For example, after the whole visitors, below that, we got people who viewed the product page, and we can actually segment those into different categories. If you got a fashion brand, those different categories could be different type of clothes, like shirts or trousers, for example. And below that, we got users who have added items to the cart. And we can actually segment them even more by adding users who have visited more than 5 pages, or have spent more than 10 minutes on the website, or have purchased something in the past, which are all factors that show a strong intent. Then last but not least, we got converted shoppers. And we can segment those between users who bought once from you or users who bought more than once. The power of segmentation is that we can actually customize the message for the different segments based on where they are in the funnel. So users who have visited only the homepage will have a generic message like discover good deals. Users who have visited the category page will see check out our new arrival, for example. Users who have viewed an offer could receive a different offer with a sense of urgency, maybe like 30% off today only. Users who have abandoned the cart can see a special feature like free shipping. And users who have purchased or have converted in the past can be shown a cross-selling message like you may like this other product. Also, it's important to say that Google and Facebook works really well together. One of the best strategies I've seen in the account is actually when Google has been used as a prospecting strategy, because through Google, we can actually target users based on search intention with both search ads and Google Shopping ads. So usually this is a good way to find the prospecting at the top of the funnel, and then using a remarketing strategy, which can be done either through Google Ads or Facebook Ads. So let's actually see a very simple strategy to create a remarketing campaign. First of all, we will have to create an audience using Google Analytics by just clicking on Admin and on Audience Definition, which will take you to this page where you can actually decide the audience source. Then you can define your audience. For example, in this slide, I was creating an audience for users who have reached the checkout page. In fact, the condition is the page contains NO/checkout/NO because we're targeting Norway. And you can see the member duration, which was 30 days. And after that, you have to choose the audience destination, so your Google Ads account. If you don't see your Google Ads here, you need to go back and link your Google Ads with Google Analytics. And after creating your audiences, you need to target those audiences by clicking on Audience and Targeting. Then by clicking on Browse, you can click on how they have interacted with your businesses, which will take you to the last step, when you actually decide which audience you're going to target. For example, in this case, I'm going to exclude all converters while targeting last 30 days add to cart in NO, which is the audience I've created before. Then we can actually decide the bid optimization we want to have for the different audiences. I will highly recommend increasing the bid adjustment proportionally to the level of intent, which means the lower the users is in the funnel, the higher the bid adjustment is going to be. For example, in this case, users who have reached the checkout page are going to have a 40% extra bid adjustments. So if you want any help in creating a simple remarketing strategy like this, or a most advanced strategy, feel free to ask any question. I will pass the microphone to Paul now.
Awesome. Thank you, Bruno, for those retargeting strategies there. So let me just go and wrap up before we get on to Q&A there. So I just wanted to share some news. This was literally yesterday that Google display ads that Bruno was talking about there are now available within AdEspresso. Let's just go make the screen a bit bigger here. So yeah, you can now import the campaigns, and of course, AdEspresso makes everything a lot more visual than Google or Facebook Ads Manager. So you can then go and analyze all your campaigns. And of course, later on, we're going to be rolling out campaign creation for display ads as well. But at the moment, you can go and analyze all your data there in AdEspresso. As a little reward for everybody watching this webinar today, we'd like to offer you a free 14-day trial and then exclusive to webinar viewers, 30% off AdEspresso for, I think it's for your first 3 months there. You can just go to adespresso.com/AE-webinar, and then you can take that free trial. And then if you decide to continue, you get 30% off your plan there. So hope that's a little reward there for watching our strategy session today. Also, just you probably noticed that we had quite a lot to cover in this webinar. Just like my section on Facebook and Instagram retargeting, I could probably spend about 3 hours on that topic, which I condensed down to 35 minutes. So if you want some kind of personalized one-on-one advice for your business, I'd love to jump on a call. Same with Bruno. He'd love to jump on a call and cover Bruno Google Ads with you. We've got loads of other experts in our team as well, both for Facebook and for Google. If you'd like to book any of us, you can book that via the services tab in AdEspresso. If you don't have an account, hey, you can take out that 14-day free trial and then book it. And we're never going to push you to then. You don't have to have a paid version of AdEspresso if you don't want to, but I think you'll probably love it and then you'll decide to stick with it anyway. But yes, we want to give you that helping hand there. Final thing is next month's webinar is going to be on campaign budget optimization, CBO. It's a really hot topic at the moment, as for a lot of ad accounts, it's going to be coming compulsory in September. And it's one of the biggest changes that Facebook have made to how budget is being handled for years. So we're going to be doing a completely free training on that. We'll also cover some other optimizations, like I touched on reach versus conversions. And we're also going to be talking about value optimization as well for e-commerce. If you're interested in that, just totally free, adespresso.com/webinars, and you can register there. So thanks for listening to our advice on Facebook and Google today. And I can see loads of questions come in already. But if you've got some more, please just go and type them in the questions box and we'll get to as many as possible. So I'm going to open it up to Tori now. He's been keeping an eye on the questions. Tori, have you got any good questions for us?
Hey, yes, so it looks like we have a couple of good questions, both for Facebook and Google. Lots of comments about people excited to receive the recording and start putting a lot of these tips into action. So a great webinar, Paul and Bruno.
Thank you.
All right, first question we have from Robert. What if this is for Facebook, but I think it's going to be great to answer for Google as well. So Paul, we'll start with you, and then Bruno, if you can answer that same question for Google after. The question is, what if your product has no e-commerce? So for example, car insurance, where I guess you're working more with leads than you are actually selling things. So what would be a good retargeting strategy for Facebook?
Okay, that's a great question. And I've actually done this for car insurance before. Is that what you can do in Facebook is you can pixel different events as people go through the funnel. Now, if you go onto our YouTube channel, and it's basically onto YouTube, search for AdEspresso, we've got a pixel mastery webinar on there. But what I've done for car insurance is set up different pixel events for different stages of the funnel. So you've obviously got website visitors, then maybe somebody that's just entered their name and email address, and then you can have different stages of the quote. And what you find quite often with insurance is people start going through the first couple of stages and then abandon because they need to find their vehicle registration documents or whatever it is. It's something that's quite difficult to do from that first click. So you can then retarget people at different stages, or maybe they've got the quote but then haven't purchased, so you could then try and get them to book a call. One of my clients did really well with Messenger bots. Again, we've got a webinar there on Messenger, but what they did is that, people don't like after they've done an online search is then having to pick up the phone. That's just scares people these days. So they could then retarget the people that got a quote with a Messenger bot and then talk to them through Messenger, which they could do at their convenience there. So there's loads of different things. Just work out what your funnel is, and as much as possible, try and segment those different funnel sections by having those pixel events, which I say we've got a whole webinar on that there. And then Bruno, I'm sure you've done some campaigns for this on Google. Have you got any tips there for retargeting for car insurance?
I did. And as I was saying, even if it's not an e-commerce, customers will still go through the buyer funnel. It's just shorter. But if you don't have a product page, for example, I would use other factors, like if a user spent more than 10 minutes in the website, or if has viewed more than 5 pages, those are factors which show an extra intention. So I will remarket on these audiences.
Awesome. Thanks so much for your answers. Next question, kind of an interesting one here. We'll kind of follow the same format. Paul, if you want to answer that first, and Bruno, you answer after.
Yep.
What about retargeting for brick and mortar businesses here? So those who are not selling anything and maybe lead generation isn't their goal there.
Okay, you've still got the, first of all, website visitors that you can build that deeper relationship with them. Like it's done a lot for restaurants. Restaurants might want to then go and retarget with people, get them to sign up for the newsletter. And then, of course, once you've got that lead, you can still talk about your latest seasonal menus or any special offers that you've got there, but also with custom audiences. And again, we've got a webinar for that. There's a Facebook Blueprint targeting webinar on YouTube. But what you can do there is you can build audiences of people that have engaged with your Instagram content or your Facebook page, or just viewed a video there. For example, maybe you've run a contest on Facebook, you get people to like the post, in exchange they could win a free meal. You'll get tons and tons of entries on there. You can then build that audience and then go, hey, do you know about our new summer menu that you've got? And that can apply to most different businesses that you've got there. So yeah, that's the great thing in the last year or two, how Facebook's created all those engagement audiences. So even if they don't have a website or you don't get much traffic, you can still do lots of remarketing there on Facebook. As Bruno was saying, that usually takes about 6 touches to really change somebody from being awareness into being a really raving fan. And when I joined AdEspresso, I'd actually looked at my customer account and I had between 70 and 80 touches from being like a prospect of AdEspresso to when I became an AdEspresso customer. So, you know, warming those people up definitely makes a really big difference there. Bruno, have you got any tips there on Google?
Yeah, to be honest, it wouldn't change that much if it's not an e-commerce and there are no conversion. Based on your objective, your valuable action might be the click. So in this case, we would aim your strategy to get as many clicks as possible. So instead of conversion, clicks will be your objective.
Great, great. Next question here. So what would be the best practice for retargeting with a totally new site and shop where the audience is tiny or even non-existent? So how would we build up some of those audiences so we could retarget them?
Cool. On Facebook side then, so it's going back to those engagement audiences that you could run a video view campaign and then you can build up some of those audiences. One of my clients does a lot of Facebook Lives. They're like they sell cake making supplies. So they literally bake cakes on Facebook for 2 hours, twice a week. You get lots of organic traffic that way. You can then build up a video view audience. You can then retarget them. So that's the great thing about those custom audiences on Facebook. You can start, and you know, sometimes you might end up just with a small budget on retargeting, but then as you drive more cold traffic, if you've got your campaigns already in place for retargeting, you don't need to change anything, especially as we saw, you can set quite a high budget. Facebook won't go crazy with the frequency rate. So you just give it extra capacity, and then as you drive more cold traffic, then Facebook can just, you know, spend as much as it needs for retargeting there. Bruno, any tips there on Google?
Yeah, in this case, when we're talking about small brands, what I usually recommend is to be as niche as possible and focus on different features to stand out from the competition.
Okay, great. Paul, I think this question is just for you. Someone had a question on there. Are there any done for you options as it relates to AdEspresso marketing help?
Yes, we do. We have a concierge service, which is basically it's a bit like a cut down agency. We never want to compete with agencies, but we're Facebook geeks, and so we can then go and create your campaigns, do all the technical stuff, and you provide us with the ad creative. Quite a low monthly charge for that. It's a 1-month rolling contract, so it's really good if you're sort of, you know, starting off and you just don't have that time or inclination to run your own ads. Then we can do that for you and build it up, and then maybe you decide to take on an in-house marketer, or you could go with a full service agency then, saying that's one thing I like to do is build up accounts there. Just drop me a message, paul@adespresso.com, and I can put you in touch with my colleague Francesco, who'll be happy to discuss further with you there.
Awesome. Just a couple more here. A good question from Ivan. What's around the minimum number you should have for a remarketing audience?
Cool. I'll answer Facebook first and then Bruno. It'd be interesting to see what it is on Google. So the minimum number for a custom audience on Facebook is 20. Now, obviously, that's going to be a bit on the small side, and that 100's going to be better, but you don't need like tens of thousands, especially when starting off. Just if you get small audiences, then don't go crazy with the segmentation. Like, don't try and split out all your different pixel events. But yeah, anything from 20, you can start remarketing. So it's quite small numbers before you can get going there. Bruno, what kind of numbers do you need on Google?
Unfortunately, on Google it's going to be more difficult because the minimum number of Google to target on display network is going to be 1,000 users in the last 30 days. So what I usually recommend when the number of users is little is to just have a wider window. So like targeting users in the last 60 or 90 days to make sure you achieve that 1,000 users number.
Great. And then kind of along that same line, what are the minimum budgets to be effective for these remarketing campaigns?
Good question there. So great thing with Facebook is you can start from $1 a day, literally. So you don't need too much there. I've had clients that sometimes just spend $10 a day on remarketing there. Really just keep an eye on the results and then you can build it up there. But you don't need too much money for effective remarketing. What kind of budgets do you need as a minimum on Google then, Bruno?
Yeah, as on Facebook, there is really not a minimum. Although the problem with a very tiny budget is that there is a risk that the ads will stop showing before the evening. And in the evening, usually the conversion rate is better. So we want to make sure we have at least $10 per day, I would recommend.
Okay, great. So last question, I'm still seeing, are we going to send a replay out? Yes. So after the webinar ends here in just a few minutes, we'll be sending out the replay probably within the next couple of hours there. So everyone's going to have access to the recording, no problem.
Excellent. Any other questions before we wrap up there?
All right. Anyone else have any couple questions here? But I think that's all the questions that we have for
That's the
today.
main ones. Great. So any questions afterwards, just tweet at AdEspresso or paul@adespresso.com. So thank you everybody for joining us. And remember to register at adespresso.com/webinars if you want to learn about campaign budget optimization last month. And thank you, Tui. Thank you, Bruno.
All right. Thank you, guys.